Perfect.
Go on.
Perfect. Sorry to break the conversation
Yes.
and take it over. That's my job here. But welcome back, everyone. And as we move into the final stretch of day 2, we arrive at a conversation that feels both timely and deeply necessary. Because burnout today is no longer an individual issue, it is a systemic one. And resilience is no longer about pushing harder. It has become about designing healthier ways of working, leading, and being. Now, this panel invites us to explore how coaching tools can support individuals and organizations in navigating burnout, not just to recover, but to build sustainable resilience. I am delighted to be joined by 3 practitioners who bring both depth and real-world perspectives to this conversation. Sangeeta Chandran, who brings rich experience in people development, well-being, and organizational transformation. Hello, Sangeeta. And Shruti Kulkarni, who's a life coach. Hi, Shruti. Thank you all for being here and holding this important conversation with us. And this session will be moderated by Priya Nijara. So with that, over to you, Priya, Shruti, Sangeeta, and Biswarup.
Thank you, Akriti, and thank you for actually setting the context, taking a little bit of my initial spiel. But hi, everyone. I actually can't somewhat see Sangeeta. There you are, Sangeeta. Hi. Amazing. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to set the context and unpack everything that we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, everyone. Like Akriti actually rightly mentioned, burnout today is quite the reality of our
Recording in progress.
We are always saying that I'm too busy, life is too hectic, but is this really just an individual level problem, or is it a leadership challenge? And is it really an organizational risk? How does one motivate the team? How does one spot burnout or even maybe preempt it? We're seeing high performers disengage. We're seeing the whole phenomenon of quiet quitting that's becoming more rampant. And how does this interact with the idea of resilience, which sometimes gets confused with just pushing through? And are these really two sides of the same coin? Where do we draw the distinction between when we are burning out and when we are staying resilient and fighting through? So we'll discuss all this and more. There's a lot to discuss in today's session, and we do have an incredible panel here. They span across leadership, coaching, organizational experience, tremendous experience on the panel here. I'll just start with introducing them with a little bit of their backgrounds. So to begin with, Mr. Biswarup Goswami, who I'm going to call BG. He's a passionate HR professional for over 35 years. He's worked across all domains of HR, from creating high performance teams to change management to employee engagement to succession planning. And most recently, he's been the CHRO at the Gujarat Heavy Chemicals Limited for the past 8 years. But he's worked across multiple MNCs and big industrial houses like Philips, Bharti Airtel, Tata Steel, etc. as well. He's a visiting faculty at SOIL now, these teaching MBA HR, which he absolutely loves. He's also a yoga practitioner and trained in guided meditation. And I think some of that will help us deal with burnout, really. So we're going to wait to hear from him on that. Welcome, BG.
Yeah, thank you.
Then we have 2 women panelists, and both of them happen to be army kids. But with very different and diverse and unique experiences in both of them. And we'll hear about a little bit of that, hopefully, in the course of the next 1 hour. First is Sangeeta Chandran. She's a safety and well-being professional with over 20 years of experience in education, CorpCom, and CSR. Across industries like telecom, education, hospitality, BPOs, and IT consulting. The last 12 years, she's been with the Tata Consulting Group. Her aim is to use her experience to help organizations achieve its ultimate business goals and create a better world within the communities it is a part of. Welcome, Sangeeta. Lovely to have you here.
My pleasure.
And we have Shruti Kulkarni. She is an agile coach and an artist. So bringing a very different perspective, hopefully, to this conversation. With experience across industries, she's currently with Synchrony Financial. She creates safe spaces for honest conversations and learning with a focus on adaptability and growth. Shruti is a dot mandala artist, and at her workshops, she fosters space for pause and reflection. As a neurodiverse person herself, using first-hand experiences, she advocates for its awareness and practices, neuroaffirmative coaching for growth and belonging in organizations. So, welcome, Shruti. Really looking forward to this session. So, we have a lot of things to talk about today, from the concept of burnout, and that's become so evident in today's world, especially in the corporate workspace, to what role could coaching play really here, and how can all of this come together to create a resilient workforce? I want to start with a simple, very powerful question. How do we really spot burnout? What is burnout, and what are the early signs that we can see for when somebody is burning out in our team or for ourselves as well? Sangeeta, I'm going to start with you to give your views on this, and then we'll go around the panel.
Thank you, Priya. And I'm firstly delighted to be on this panel with both Biswarup and with Shruti, and I think it'll be very interesting. To address your question, I was just thinking that, for all of us, when is the day that we begin to feel like we don't want to get out of bed, right? We don't want to step out. We don't look forward to a day. And that actually is really the first sign for us, for ourselves. Nobody else may see it, but when we ourselves begin to feel that, it is time to take a step back and think about this, that, why am I not eager to get out of bed? Why am I not eager to do the things that I have maybe till now really loved doing, right? So that, I think, is the first sign of burnout. And of course, as we speak, there'll be so many different things that uh, you know, we will talk about. But, spotting within ourselves, because, especially when it comes to anything to do with whatever's happening within us, it's difficult for other people to see it. So it's best that we see it for ourselves. And that, I think, is the first sign of it, not wanting to get out of bed.
Got it. So not wanting to get out of bed is the first sign to ourselves that we are probably on the path of burnout. Great. Shruti, anything you'd like to add, like in terms of how you view burnout and how we can spot it?
Firstly, thanks for having me. I think a lot of times I've heard, especially at workplaces, people call burnout as I'm tired or I'm not able to cope. And I think it starts way before there. As just called out, right? I've noticed burnout is often being stronger for longer than you expected. That feeling kind of kicks it in, that you expect it to be stronger for just this much, and then you had to go really long, and now you feel exhausted. I think one of the early signs that I've noticed is language. In terms of agility, adaptability, awareness, I work a lot around agile language in general, just in life. And I think burnout often appears first in our languages, some sort of pattern, some clear narrative that comes off. And if we just listen carefully, right, the words just, fine, it's manageable. I've been doing it for a while, right? These kind of words kind of signal tolerance. And there's a certain notion of minimalization, which overcomes the well-being. We're minimalizing things as much as we can. And I think there's this micro framework that I like using, and maybe we talk about it more, but I think language is something that I've noticed, and it goes very unnoticed usually, because for us it may seem like a very normal thing, right? But it may not be for the person who's experiencing it. And at what point are we having the conversation with this individual, I think is a real helpful note for a coach in general, but I'd say language.
Great. So just as a follow-on to that, superb observation, like just in terms of what we should look out for. language in your team members as well as in what you are saying, like the way you speak? Is that how you would think about it for ourselves and for people in our team?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Is there a difference in the language that I would use to myself, and how do I observe it for myself that I'm going on onto a path of burnout, and then somebody in my team is using those words or minimalizing their their discomfort?
There could be a difference. And I think if we observe enough, or if we listen enough, for example, any sort of element of downplaying distress, just to remain acceptable or to feel safe or to feel like, yeah, this is my comfort, I just want to downplay it so that I feel okay. I think that is something that we can observe. And again, it's not to fix, it's just to observe, to see how it plays out.
Great. Thanks, Shruti. That's great. BG, your views on this?
Yeah, quick one. I think both Sangeeta and Shruti have summed it up so well. I don't need to add on much. I was there for 2 minutes in the previous session also, and we were talking about sleep. And, that reminds me the poem of Robert Frost, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, and it's pretty winter now here as well in Delhi. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but we have promises to keep, and miles to go before we sleep, and miles to go before we sleep. Are we running short of sleep? The burnout, the basics of burnout. In fact, I don't like to talk on the negatives. Rather, we would, on the flip side, would like to talk what is the anti-burnout strategies. For instance, when do you see that people are not burnt out, particularly in the corporate sector or even in the education sector? The students, they get burnt out. Primarily, they feel exhausted, enervated. Also, they lack focus and the belief in themselves. Those things are leading to a lot of burnout. But when it is an anti-burnout, employees are pretty engaged, right? So when you look at employees who are motivated, who are engaged, you see that they are happily doing things, right? So in fact, this happiness quotient is very, very important to prevent this burnout that comes into people. I come from the corporate and I have seen a lot of bosses who put a pressure and breathing down your neck, and every minute they are asking you, what is the update, what is the status, and that leads to a lot of stress, right? I remember a colleague of mine, and he was talking about another organization we already previously worked, and his boss used to, every minute or every 10 minutes, he will ask him, what is the update? So he got annoyed. So one day, and he said that this is not the way he's going to allow me to work properly. And he was a purchasing guy, strategic purchasing guy. And for him, he has to discuss a lot of time with vendors and clients and all. And so he was not getting enough time. So he went to the boss straight away and he said that, what do you want? What is the end result? So you give me the end result and I will send you a note at the end of, say, a weekly note that will sum up that as per your expectation, have I done or not done. So I personally feel that, burnout is something which is excessive or a prolonged dissatisfaction in person, which leads you to doubt your own capabilities,
Right.
doubt your self capabilities. And that situation should not come by and large, I feel. And maybe that is where in the next session we could discuss on the coaching tools and how do we create
Yes.
something more on the resilience part. So over that, I hope I have done a little bit of justice. Over to
Yes.
you, Priya.
Absolutely, BG. Absolutely. That's a great perspective. Looking at the opposite of burnout, if it's an engaged and the happiness quotient is high, if the team is engaged, then automatically you would know that they're not showing signs of burnout. But then also that leaders have to take the onus and not being, pushy or not demanding too much when it's maybe not required. So those are great pointers. And actually, the next thought was going to be, what could leaders really do? And I think you rightly segued into that. what could leaders do to ensure that they are not fueling the burnout and that they're not actually contributing to that phenomena in their own team members, and to have that level of self-awareness? Um, is there anything you would tell leaders to keep in mind? And I'll open it up to the others as well, to Sangeeta, to Shruti. Is there anything you tell leaders to keep in mind when they are working with their team members? So one is looking at themselves. Second is, how do they ensure that they are not, uh, pushing their team members to a brink of burnout?
Yeah, I think, Priya, you need to. Would you like to take it, Sangeeta, or should I continue?
Please, please.
So, I'm saying that you need to empower your people. Why do you have to breathe down the neck as a boss or as a leader? You need not do micromanaging, right? So all these things leads to ultimately a little stress on the other side, and the effectiveness reduces. And rather, the trust quotient is very, very important. If there is a team member who has been delivering for years together, why shouldn't you trust and let the person do their own work in their own time? And of course, you can set the limits. This is when I want the delivery to be done. And why should be pushing that person so hard, right? So as a leader, we should be careful. We should be empathetic leader. So empathy plays a big role, and I'm a big advocate of empathetic leadership. So putting yourself in other shoes and taking a decision, that is very, very important. And then how do you create a stress-free environment? How do you create a happy organization? What is the happiness quotient that you want to build into your people? Should you play on the strength of people? The Gallup Strength Finder, for instance. So can a leader play to the strength of people rather than the areas of development? So there are many such examples, and I would like to hear a little more from Shruti and Sangeeta. Over to you all.
Fabulous. Thanks, PG. Thanks. That was good perspective on how leaders can make the workplace better with empathy and just being more cognizant of their actions. Sangeeta, please.
Sure. So, what Biswarup said is true. And, the whole aspect of empathetic leadership is something which is so very important, because the minute we are able to, understand from somebody else's point of view, then the way we are able to help that person really be their best is something else, right? And of course, there's another aspect of psychological safety. Because when we allow for a space where people feel safe to be able to express themselves, safe to be creative, be innovative, safe to fail from time to time, knowing that somebody has their back, right? And feel safe to say that, hey, this is something that I think I can do and I'd like to take a go at it. And a leader being ready to help that person do that is something which is so important. And, the minute people begin to feel that sense of safety and comfort, which obviously comes from a leader who understands and is empathetic, half your problems melt away. So, when you're working from a position of strength and of feeling safe, then many of the things that you think that you might have to battle are no longer there, and you're able to give your best. Right. So that is something which I think again plays a big role. And again, this, the same thing as Biswarup said, that, how do we play to people's strengths, right? I think in addition to that, as leaders, it is also important to help people get out of their comfort zones. Because sometimes what happens is that if we're very good at a job, and then we've sort of gotten into a corner where, because we're so good, we just continue to do the same thing over year and year and year. And that is something which is so important for leaders to keep an eye out for, that, how do you help people to move from the comfort zone into something new, to try their hand at something new, to know that the organization and the leader will actually support you in that new role as well. So again, the whole thing comes back to the aspect of psychological safety. So I think, I will add that aspect to this, and then over to Shruti.
No, fabulous, Sangeeta. Before we move to Shruti, it reminded me of the army story you mentioned to me earlier. I mean, I'd love for you to share it with everybody as well, because this is very
Sure.
timely.
Sure, sure. And I'm sure Shruti will also understand and echo this that, as an army child, we always moved every 2, 3 years, right? Because in the army, there is the concept is very clear, and it may be for various reasons that, you're never in the same job, in the same position for more than 2 or 2.5 years. So you move all the time. And what it also does is that it creates for people the ability to become far more adaptable, which again, whenever we do speak about resilience, the biggest aspect is about being adaptable. And how does a change environment? Hey, Shilpi, welcome, welcome. So how do we adapt? And, that is again something which comes into play. And the minute we are able to adapt, we are more audacious, we are more confident, and, the world becomes a much more open and bigger playing ground for us, right? So, yeah, so that's definitely something I think. Can't remember if there was anything else that we spoke about, Priya, but yeah, for the moment, this is definitely something
No,
which.
absolutely. And I think the whole idea, just following from what we're talking about, empathetic leadership and psychological safety, I think you'd also mentioned how in the army, very early you're taught that you're not a soldier. You're not saving lives, or you're not like protecting the nation. So why do we take our lives so seriously in the workplace?
Ah, that one. Yes. If you don't mind, I can continue and just finish that thought. And thank
Please.
you for reminding me that, yes, and that came actually from the thought that, in our jobs, and I don't mean to, because I'm part of the corporate world as well, and I do not mean to say that the work that we do is not important. But, I think contextualizing everything is really important, right? That, what is the context of this job that anyone, especially for managers who are managing teams and have very clear, specific goals, they become so obsessed with that one goal that everything else seems to fall on the wayside. People, you forget to see your people as people anymore, right? And in the army, the job that a soldier is doing or an officer is doing is the job ultimately at some point, the highest level of the job that they're doing is about saving lives and going on to the front, right? And for that, they train day in and day out and day in and day out. And so, the training itself helps them to become more resilient, right? And there is, despite that, there is so many different things that are done to ensure that there is less burnout, right? I mean, otherwise, just think about it. Not that you don't hear about, soldiers taking guns and shooting people within their own units, but the incidents are so few. And if you really think about it, the exposure to that risk is so high. But the fact is that they are trained and given the ability to raise their resilience to a point that they can take so much more. And we don't do the same thing for our people in the corporate world, that kind of resilience training, but we expect the same kind of, output, or like the belief that, if this particular thing doesn't go out today, the world is going to come to an end, right?
Yes.
So how does a leader or a manager balance that
Yeah.
is very key.
Yeah, no, very well said. And I think there are a bunch of army kids in this audience, so everyone's resonating really well. The comment section is resonating a lot. But I think I just saw one comment from Snigdha which said that it also makes one too resilient. Um, and Snigdha, we will talk a little bit more about that when we're talking about resilience, because yes, resilience is such a loaded word as well, and how good is too good. So we'll come to that, and I'm sure you'll have a moment to, uh, you know, say something at that point as well. But while I move to Shruti, I do want to, layer this with one more thing. What do you think as a leader? We're talking about all this. What is probably the first coaching move a leader could make when they see somebody in their team who is on the heading towards burnout, already burnt out for whatever reasons? The environment has not been very supportive. Maybe the leader recognizes that. What could be the first thing that they could do to start making amends or making some impact in that direction? Is there something you would advise a leader or a coach to tell their coachee in that case?
I think I've worked with, and I take a stab at that. I've worked with leaders and continue to work with leaders for a coaching skill set. Coaching is not only for coaches, leaders, and I call it the impact circle. You might not have people reporting to you, but the company depends on you to influence people with or without Instagram, right? So you are an influencer in your own might.
Nice.
And in that case, how do you influence people? We're in the game of change. And as an agile coach, I think as Sangeeta called out, the most complex question for me to answer is, where are you from? That's the most complex question I ever have to answer. I'm a tri-state couple even now, every month. So I think one thing that leaders definitely could benefit from is having a coaching skill set. Now, how is that different from being an ICF coach per se? Because is it that heavy is the question that I get. A few things just that I've been able to work with leaders on is, number one, I think a lot of times when it comes to boundaries, leaders say, hey, just say no. If you can't do it, just say no. And they encourage people to say no. But the difficulty of saying no is rarely about assertiveness. It is more to do with the individual's identity of trying to be relatable in the organization. I want to be relatable, and hence I will not say no, because I think there's probably an underlying fear of a relational rupture that may happen. What will my manager think? What will my boss's boss think? Will my peers look at me the same way if I say no to this initiative? There's some sort of a value that is being quietly compromised, and it is not said out loud. So I think a lot of times for leaders, instead of asking, how do you want to set boundaries, or do you want to set boundaries? What's boundaries? Instead of straightforward questions like that, I would look at something that boundaries as an outcome, not as a skill set. So for the question would shift to say, what are you protecting when you say yes to this? Or what are you protecting when you say no to this? And then it's such a deeper thing. The responder is going to have to take time to think about it, right? What is being threatened at this point? I think another thing for leaders is also an ethical question. And I sometimes I ponder upon this myself as a coach. How do we pause? Because we keep being taught as coaches to be curious, stay curious. How much curiosity is good when you're talking to somebody going through burnout? No, which is why the first thing that I was saying was identifying, observing for a leader to know if that individual that they're working with or the teams that they're working with, are they approaching burnout or are they actively experiencing burnout? Because the approach changes between the two. If I'm working with someone who says, hey, I think I'm going to get overwhelmed, I think I'm going to get there. So if there's a notion of burnout approaching, I think coaching can support awareness and choice. It is not about finding the quick fix at that point. However, if they are actively in burnout, then awareness and choice is going to be very frustrating for somebody like that. They're going to say, I just need an answer. So at that point, pausing, looking at creativity as a resource rather than a good to have. Creativity plays a humongous role in how leaders look at conversations with people experiencing burnout, especially when they're actively going through it. So I think if you could look at creativity as a resource rather than a skill set, I think that's one. And the last thing I think I want to say is co-create it. We don't know what the individual experiencing burnout wants. Ask them instead of trying to fix it for somebody else. The weight on the shoulders of a leader is not always very light, right? So ask.
Wow. Fabulous. Fabulous. You've brought up a very, very important point about identity. And actually, my next question was going to be around that. And we will come back to the creativity part, because I know that that's a very active tool that we have to actually address burnout when somebody is especially right in the middle of it and not approaching it, right? Like you rightly said. But this point about identity, high performers have their job and their identity very closely linked to their work. How does one detach oneself from that identity? And I know it goes much deeper than that. And BG, maybe you can give a perspective here as to how does one enable somebody to differentiate themselves from their identity when they're going through burnout, but they think that that's who they are or that's what they're meant to do? What would you say to them at that point? And as an HR person, I'm sure you've seen this across many forums. So I would love to hear from you.
Sure, Priya. I think it was very interesting hearing both Shruti and Sangeeta, and coming from the army. I must say, leader has to lead by example, right? So there were two of my bosses. They will leave office at 5:30 straight. I mean, and I think Shruti was talking about a pause and all. So many a time we talk about as a leader, are we allowing this digital detox, for instance? Are we allowing time to self-reflect at the end of the day for an hour or a half an hour at least? We'll not take phone calls from outside. When I was with Tata Steel and Philips, we were practicing some of these things. And I was asking my boss, why does he respond to emails at 10:30 in the night? I was asking him, and he was a boss who used to leave office at 5:30, right? So later on, I understood that his workload was a little higher, but he was not willing to compromise giving time to his family. He wanted to get back home on time, spend a little time with the family, have an early dinner, and then maybe half an hour he would like to spend on addressing the various emails. He will not rush at 5 in the evening to give answers to all your emails. Similarly, in Gujarat Heavy Chemicals, for instance, my managing director himself, he will leave at 5:30 sharp. And when I was about to join this organization, I had to travel from Gurgaon to Noida. That's very hectic, right? And this travel time was, I said that maybe I have to take a one bedroom apartment there in case if I get late. Well, those things will not come in this organization, BG. And no doubt, this is why this company was a great place to work for last 8 years. And 5 years during my tenure itself, he was certified as one of the most trusted leader. He will leave at 5:30, but he'll come sharp at 9:30 in the morning. So you come early and you leave early. It's not a vicious circle, right? So you come little late and you leave little late. And I've seen a lot of bosses also like that in my career of 3 decades or a little more. So you have been seeing all these things. So as a leader, are we looking into all these things? That is very, very important. Are you giving space to your subordinate? So those things are very, very critical from my perspective in the corporate world. And one very important leadership trait that we used to talk when I was working for Philips, and that company is pretty well known. The brand is pretty well known. And we used to say we must create a task and a people leader together. A good leader is a both task leader and a people leader. And in the people leadership, they used to talk about developing self and others. And this is nothing but more like coaching, right? So it is coming to that. As a leader, are you able to coach your team member? Many a time we have a burnout because we are walking on the fast lane. We are running on the fast lane. We have pressure to perform. So the pressure of performance, and I think Shruti spoke about creativity, looking for alternate options, the fear of failure, if you can remove. In fact, there were some bosses who will recognize failures. They are stepping stones to success later, right? So all these things make up a good leader, and these were a couple of examples I thought I'll share.
Extremely positive and optimistic spaces, and I think you've been also very lucky to have worked with such good managers and bosses. I mean, there are a lot of people who have not had the fortune of working with bosses who are so
I have worked, a couple of them
really.
were toxic as well. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I'm sure. But what the examples you've expressed were definitely what we all should aim for and what we should look forward to. Those kind of bosses really those managers allow for the psychological safety and creativity and innovation. So that's great. Sangeeta, any thoughts on how do you tell a high performer to separate their identity from their job? I mean, how does one go about doing that really?
Sure, but just before that, I just want to add to what Biswarup just said. And so the example of the emails coming at 10:30. So I was talking to another leader within our organization, TCS as well, and she was telling me, she said, her rhythm of work and everything was also like this, very different. And she would, after she had finished the whole day and things like that, she would then sit at about, like, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and respond to emails, right? And her team, she realized that her team was, like, responding like almost immediately to whatever she was saying. And she realized that there was something wrong there. And then she actually had a conversation with everyone and told them that, this is my personal rhythm. And I'm not expecting any of you to actually respond at that time. So I think that kind of conversation with your teams is also really important, because to allow everyone the space to develop your own rhythms, right? So everybody might have an overlap of a major part of the day, but otherwise, if somebody chooses who works much better early in the mornings, for example, my mails usually are very early in the morning after I've taken my dogs for a walk, right? I come back and then I look at my mails and respond at that time. So, but that is my personal choice, right? So I think that is really important.
Nice. Actually, I'm going to allude to the previous session again. It was on sleep, and I think there was one discussion on, is it okay to be a night owl? And, a morning person versus a night owl. And you rightly said everyone's energy levels are different, and everyone's cycles are different. So, but not imposing it on your team, I think, is the more critical part of it.
Yeah, sorry. Sangeeta said about the dog taking night out. I have a golden retriever, and believe me, they are very good stress busters. So, be it a dog or be it a cat or whatever, I mean, end of the day, you need to have some stress busters also. And it is not a very ideal world. You can't think of a world without stress. There will be some amount of those stress, but you need to know how to handle it. That's very, very important.
No, and that's great, because the next thing I was going to take us to is really in the coaching space, what are those, if you had to give one thing you would tell everyone to do to manage burnout, or to sort of be able to deal with a burnout situation, as if you're a coach or if you're a leader and you're telling your team, what could be that one thing you do? And Shruti, I know we're going to take this down the creative path, so I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how you use creativity and art specifically to do that. So I'm preempting that your answer is going to be, and you earlier said as well, creative and co-create as well. So please tell us more about, a coaching tool or something that you use in very practical ways.
Firstly, I've also had some great bosses, even my current bosses, who will ping me at an odd hour, my odd hour, and say, they'll ask me the question and say, hey, is this, blah, blah. And at the bottom, they'll write, you don't need to reply now, reply whenever you log in. It comes with that notion, because I think my bosses also know that I may check in between, and they tell me, don't respond right now. So it takes a lot to have that. I think one of the resources, definitely, as you called out, is creativity. It works. It works. It may not be a magic wand to wave about and fixes everything right away, but we're talking about sustainability. We're talking about a long run game. And during burnout, especially, the nervous system is often dysregulated, and it's very cognitively heavy, right? So overwhelming responses kind of depletes your energy, your capacity. So creativity here can reduce cortisol and your stress markers. It can restore cognitive flexibility. It can calm your mind a little. Now, I'm not saying you will start doing meditation. It doesn't work for everybody. So if you are someone listening to this and think the meditation doesn't work for me, that's okay. You just need to find your own meditation. It may be defined as anything. Especially when I work with neurodivergent people, creativity reduces verbal load. It reduces masking. It reduces performance pressure. Again, creativity is not an expression. It is not the art therapy that you go to and then that magically that email will be sent that you're struggling with. It won't work like that. But it is a resource, and it has so many different ways that you can use this resource. One of them is repetition as a rest. So for example, you can repeat simple patterns of stroke. A lot of us call it doodling. It builds rhythm, predictability. Your nervous system is very soothing at that time. It scatters your energy to settle into calm. And if I have permission, I'm just going to share something that so whether I'm in an airport or if it's a flustered day or whatever, you could just start making something. It could be anything at all, just scribbly lines, absolutely anything.
Amazing.
As simple as just scribbling lines. All you need is a pen and paper, which is not a very expensive resource. I think the most expensive resource during burnout is going to be your willingness to do it. So at that point, I'm going to ask, what stops you from doing something like this? You could also do something called color-based check-ins. So choose a color to reflect your current energy. No emotions, no labels. What this does is it builds your awareness about your emotional labor that you're carrying. What does it? And it also gives back the agency without explanation that, hey, I'm feeling purple today. So now you could just mention, what do you feel like purple, right? There is an activity called visual containment. If anybody's making notes, that's what it's called. So visual containment means you just draw a circle, pen and paper, and then all you need, maybe some color pencils, you get them for 12 rupees. It's as simple as that, right? And you start coloring whatever you feel like today within that circle. Because what happens in burnout is boundary feels very comfortable. So we're just making that comfort, and you're going to color in whatever you feel like. And if you're feeling like a color much more today, fill in that color more. And that's okay. The purpose of this is not to take a picture later and put on Instagram. It's for you to really plug off, be as calm as possible. And if the calm is bothering you, then maybe that is a conversation to have again. What bothers you to be calm? Right. So I think these are a couple of things. I just want to add a note because we're talking about creativity, but oftentimes we also spoke about resilience. So resilience is often misframed in companies called as a personal endurance. I have a very high personal endurance and hence I'm resilient. But in reality, it may be a system property that I've been through, right? So it normalizes recovery, alignment with values. I think somebody was calling out in the chat, right? Values. Over time, if creativity is utilized, right? Especially with neurodivergent individuals who are known for being naturally creative, pattern oriented. You can see I have a lot of patterns in they're very deeply thoughtful, very empathetic, highly adaptive, right? But in organizations where resilience is celebrated a lot, there can be an overuse of creativity to mask. Masking is a technique where a neurodivergent person is going to do everything in their might to feel normal among everybody else. And that's where burnout begins, because that's not how the neurons are set for a neurodiverse person. And it may feel like they're constantly struggling to fit into the system. And that's where creative burnout can come out, right? So a lot of times people will say, I can't access my creativity because I don't have pressure. I work great under pressure, which will now mean they will try their hardest to create pressure so that they perform better. And that's a nervous system response. That's not a motivation issue. So I think a lot of these kind of connect to burnout. And as leaders, everyone on this call, we can kind of observe as to where this is heading. Use creativity as much as we can. And yeah, those were a few things I wanted to say.
Oh, fabulous. I mean, all very tangible coaching tools. I think firstly, you've given a clean chit to anyone who's doodling and all the backbenchers who had the pen and pencil and book. I think we've all been doing it all right. And I think then you mentioned about color again, such a simple way of explaining it or just to do it. I mean, all of us can do it anytime. And of course, we have to have that willingness to do it. Even the
Can I
visual
just add,
containment thing, the boundary thing. I mean, amazing, very tangible action tools here. Yes,
can
please.
I just add one more thing? I think just an activity, because we oftentimes in the corporate world, we talk about this, and I think Biswarup Sangeeta also mentioned, we're from the corporate world. A lot of times we're misguided as people who are too strict and don't have a nervous system at all. But we get told to think outside the box. God knows where the box is. but we are asked to think outside the box. And so just shifting that language to little, expanding our own visualization, right? There's a very simple creative exercise that I do a lot of times with some teams, and you could try it if you'd like. So we're very visual people, right? We envision what we see. If you ask a 4-year-old, what do you want to become? I want to become a police inspector. Why? Because my neighbor's a police inspector. He looks really cool in a uniform. So what you see is what you want to become, right? So just expanding what you can see. An exercise, put 15 seconds on the clock, 20 seconds on the clock, take a pen and paper. Would you be ready? Do you have 20 seconds right now?
I mean, if everyone's up for it, we can all do it.
Yeah, a pen and paper, everyone?
Guys, whoever has a pen and paper, let's do this.
Give me a thumbs up. Oh, I
Yeah.
gave myself a thumbs up. All right.
Yeah, we've got a few, and everyone else is scrambling for a pen and paper, but guys, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep some time on the clock,
Okay,
and let's
what
see
should we
how
do?
this works.
Shruti, you have to say that again. I missed that. What are we doing in 20 seconds?
A pen
I'm
and
going to
paper.
tell you, I haven't said it yet.
Okay,
If the
sorry.
moment I say it, you're going to start doing it, and that's not what we want.
That's exactly what we've been talking about all this while.
Right? So timer on 20 seconds. I will tell you X amount of something, and you will make that in that 20 seconds, okay? X amount of anything. So for example, make 6 types of boats. You're not going to make them right now. I'm just giving an example, all right? So here we go, 20 seconds on the clock. You will make 6 types of trees. Time starts. 6 types of trees, 20 seconds on the clock. Time's up. All right, one more. 6 types of mugs. Your time starts now. Yeah, draw 6 types of mugs. Ten more seconds.
Okay.
All right, time's up. Okay. All right, that's all. That's as simple as that. It took you 40 seconds to do this. What's everyone thinking? Anyone, one person is good.
Mugs.
So
I'm thinking of
Shruti, I
mugs.
only got 3 trees and 2 mugs. I couldn't think beyond that. It's
Yeah,
like, okay.
so here's the thing, right? There were no rules in this activity.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely
Okay.
no rules. Who's to say that the cup cannot be a cloud shape and a bus is not a handle? Who's to say that?
Wow. Okay.
You could make it happen, right? This is not about engineering. This is about visualization. This is about anime, right? How Tom and Jerry would just burp and the side town would explode. So that's the creativity, right? So thinking beyond what you see. And this works very well in the corporate, especially with engineering teams where they have to visualize a lot of architecture diagrams. What are we missing? What can we do more? Have we included all the stakeholders that we needed to? So in the tech world also, as much as this is undermined as a skill set, creativity, it is very valuable. Thank you for humoring me with that.
Fabulous. I mean, really, it's blown my mind as to how we could visualize anything as a tree and why we even just going with the visual references we have in our life of what a tree is or what a mug is. But also, I think for those 20 seconds, it really takes you out of your, whatever thinking you're doing, and it forces you to just get going with it. So simple, easy tips and tricks and techniques, I would say. So thank you for that. Lots of, I think anyone facing burnout will find ways out of this. But I do want to call out, you did mention the other end of the spectrum, which is creative burnout as well. Which I mean, I was just thinking everything has a downside. Is it like, can't we just stay with something being only positive, but clearly not? So that is also a very interesting point you brought up in the whole domain of coaching as a creativity as a coaching tool. I'm going to shift gears a bit. I think we had it was an amazing last 10 minutes on creativity. I'm sure everyone loved it. What are the other tools, Sangeeta and BG, that y'all think of that you could actually give to a coach or to a leader to say that, hey, this is what you could do from tomorrow, which could actually help you deal with burnout with a team member or with yourself? BG, I'm going to start with you because I'm also going to tap into your yoga and meditation piece here. So please do share with us any
Sure.
learnings from there.
Yeah, a couple of things, how to prevent burnouts or how to create a resilient workforce or resilient person. I mean, those, I still remember, the training of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Effective People, and be proactive or keep the end in mind, put first thing first, sharpen the saw. Those things make you effective. So when you are going through some burnouts and all, you have to fall back on some of the thing like this. You also spoke about yoga. I think Shiva knows about it, that as a CHRO, many a time you have to keep your spine right, right? And yoga used to, both the forward and the backward bending exercises that you do keeps your spine straight. And you have to speak your mind at times. If people are not talking the right way, if they're putting undue pressure on people, we have to go back. And these are learnings from yoga. For instance, let us look at sun salutation, for instance. Keeps you flexible. It makes you so rejuvenated in the morning. Just 5-6 times sun salutation. There is a posture called cow and a cat pose. So just you bend yourself both concave and convex. Look at a cat, look at a cow, and then you understand the breathing, how breathing helps. We talked about a pause also in between. So the pranayama techniques, be it a Nari Shodhan or, Kapal Bhati, and these were made very popular by Ramdev, Baba and all these things, and we understand. But they make a difference. I think yoga has played a big role in myself. Of course, I have become 60 years old. I'm an old person now, but I don't feel that way, right? So I'm a 60-year-old, and yoga keeps you rejuvenated. And the blood flow, for instance, when you yoga, be it a Sirsasana or a Sarvanga when you are doing, or in a Padmasana if you are doing meditation. Of course, Shruti said that she's not into meditation much, but it does help. When you are meditating, when you are concentrating, so the art of patience, for instance, the art of concentration, many a time we get restless. That adds on to the stress. We talked about 10 minutes, you have to give this, that. So those things are very, very important. And I think yoga and pranayama plays a big role in creating resilience in you. And what is resilience, by the way? I mean, resilience is bouncing back after a failure, right? So in some companies, we used to keep it as a leadership competency. So you need to be resilient, so that's very, very important. And this is a very relevant topic. I must thank the organizers that they brought in resilience. Like empathy, I love this word resilience as well. And once you create these failures, for instance, are again, you should think positive. What is the learning out of it? Most important is I may land up in a failure. Similarly, individually as well as for the boss also, they must recognize these failures. Otherwise, this creativity wouldn't have happened. All these inventors wouldn't have come out with so many inventions. Edison had his house burnt off and he said, no, I'm going to start fresh everything. So all these does lead to good resilience. I will also put in some technical tools here, how to build resilience. There are some models, even in coaching, mentoring. I'm sure there are so many coaches around. For instance, the Oscar model or the GROW model. So I'm a fan of the GROW model. What are your goals? I mean, in the short term and the long term, maybe I want to feel energized on the day. I mean, if I'm feeling very depleted, my short-term goal is I should feel energized at the end of the day. And my long-term could be improve my performance in 6 to 1 year's time, 6 months to 1 year time. I should improve my performance. And then you see what are the realities. This is your goal. This is your short-term and the long-term goal. What are the realities in front of you? Too many emails, boss breathing on your neck. You identify what are the realities in front of you. And as Shruti was talking on creativity, what are the options before you? Look for alternate options. I'm sure half of it is not always zero, or half of it is not always four, right? So you need to identify in a creative way. You need to think what will make you creative, or what will make you think differently. So the grow model: look for goals, look for realities, look for options, and what is the way forward for will. So you must point down some of the things that will make you. I tell people during the BlackBerry age, when it was never used to work, you'll boot it off, right? So so when the best way to get a mobile phone working was to shut it off. And when you reboot it, it used to start working. So give that time, give that pause, and people will feel rejuvenated. Let them have that detox. Digital detox is too much. I was seeing a movie other day, Thodi Dur, Thodi Pa, something like that. Pankaj Kapoor on the lead and all, and it was talking about detoxing, the digital detox. It's an interesting movie. I must tell all of you to have a look at that. So those were a couple of things from the coaching perspective. It is very important, and we need to have those quick movements. If you are too much stressed, are you every 1 hour are you doing some stretch exercise in your chair itself? Are you walking for 1 or 2 minutes? Are you taking when you're having your lunch break, maybe we are walking down? So we were at One Horizon in Gurgaon, and you have a lovely space to walk. So we'll climb down 12 stairs below, and during the lunchtime, we'll just have a walk. You see so many people. And Stephen Covey used to say, spend time with nature. That also gives you a lot of feeling of goodness and wellness. Over to you. I think I've spoken enough, Priya.
No, fabulous. I think BG, you touched upon a lot of factors. Definitely, the coaching tools are super helpful and super relevant, actually, to everything we're talking about, and again, very tangible. So this is something I'm hoping everyone can take back from today, on the tangible ways, the actionable ways that we can start thinking about dealing with burnout right from tomorrow itself. But you also spoke about resilience, and I will give Sangeeta just a moment to first, give her thoughts on some coaching tools that possibly we could use, and then we want to sort of bring this all together for resilience. We are going to run over by 10 minutes. I'm hoping that's okay with everybody. But I'm told we have the time, so I think it'll be good to continue. Sangeeta, please tell us your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Priya. I was just thinking, actually, I have to tell you that I was looking at the chat just now. And some of the things that people have said, and especially what Binay said, something that I really wanted to touch upon. So when we think about, and both Shruti and Biswarup have talked about very tangible tools that we can use. But I just want to touch upon something which may not be so tangible and not so, this thing, but is as important, which is consciousness. Consciousness of what we are doing, where our life is going, being very, very careful about that. So when we think about burnout, it can be from so many different things, right? I mean, for example, as caregivers, and we're all caregivers in some way or the other, empathy burnout. And that brings its own set of things like guilt and things like that, right? And that is something that we need to think about, that how do we address that? This other one is a big one, and I want to touch upon that, and Binay has so beautifully articulated it in the chat, is the aspect of burnout which comes from, self-imposed identity and purpose. Right? So we have sort of built within our own heads that this is what I'm supposed to be, and I need to deliver on this. I cannot fall below this particular standard. Everybody expects this of me. That becomes a huge one, right? And that is one. And the third one is a very interesting one, which is burnout from, we believe that, once we have purpose, because we are all these days talking about purpose, right? That, if we have purpose, we have everything, our lives are beautiful. And as I was saying right at the beginning, that purpose actually gives us a reason to jump out of bed. And most of the time we do. But if we are not careful, even that can lead to burnout. right? So I think the consciousness of what we are doing on a daily basis is really, really important, because it is too much of anything is toxic, right? Too much of the sun is toxic, too much of sleep is toxic, too much of anything is toxic. So how do we strike that balance and are able to check ourselves or have somebody else? And which is where I think a coach really comes into play, that, somebody who can check us and be our mirror and say that, do you think you're doing too much of this, or do you think you're straying too much on that particular area, so that we can remain on the lovely balanced path, which will help us to stay away from burnout and help us to take everything that we want to do for a much longer time. I think I was telling you that day that, I found my purpose in the work that I do, right? I'm not a coach, I'm a counselor right now. And maybe one day I will also do a coach certification. I don't know. But basically, for everybody who's on this call, it's basically about helping people. That's really our purpose, right? And even in that, are we doing too much? Do we believe that somehow if we don't continue to do this, the people that we are trying to support are somehow going to fall? I think I said this to you, and I use this term called the grandioseness of our guruness, right? The grandiosity of our guruness. Do we think that, the world will fall apart if we're not holding it up on our shoulders, right? So I think these are some of the things, and really the bottom line is on the consciousness.
I mean, thank you, everyone. These are such amazing concepts you've brought up, Sangeeta. Thank you to you for bringing this, because I feel like it's piecing the whole thing together really well. We have tangible tools at our disposal, but really there needs to be a much larger consciousness and awareness that helps us understand when we're doing too much or when we are imbalanced. So balance is really key, and I think you articulated it really well. So really thank you for that. I love the grandiosity of our guruness. I think all of us have our, there are moments when we get cocky and our ego is like feeding us and telling us, oh, this can't happen without me. And that's a moment to pause and just say, hey, I'm fine. I can drop this ball and it's fine. So that's really, really wonderful. Superb. So this is great. I think we're bringing it all together. I'm going to try and I know there are a lot of comments happening. Thank you a lot, guys. I can't even keep up, to be honest. But if there are any specific questions anyone has, and I'd request Akriti or somebody from the team to also help navigate. If there's any question that you has popped up that we think we'd want to pose to the panel, before I just move to the last part of we've spoken about resilience already. We've spoken about, how do you the things you could do to really work towards building a resilient workforce. I think the one question that came up, and I'm assuming there are no questions in the chat.
There are lots and lots of compliments for this power-packed panel. What an amazing discussion. Each one of you brought different facets, and I think it's resonating so well with the audience.
Fabulous, guys. Thank you. I think I'll bring it all together with your help. The one thing that happens with resilience really is, the one question is, how do you know when it is the responsibility of the individual to deal with burnout and the responsibility of the system? Because sometimes, and we spoke a lot about this, we need empathetic leadership. We need people to be a lot more aware of how the environment and culture that they're creating in the organization. But resilience sometimes is misused as a word to say that I'll bounce back, or I'll push through, and that's what makes me a great leader. And who takes the responsibility of saying when is it resilience and when is it really getting toxic? And how do we define that line between the organization and the individual? Any thoughts from anyone?
Okay, I'm taking this, Priya. So, again, I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi here. And he used to say, if you want to see change, be the change, right? So, whether it is an individual or an organization, what you are talking about, first thing is what is in your control zone. At least there is a control zone where I can change myself, right? So instead of changing the whole world, instead of changing the organization, can we think about doing something, 2, 3 steps that we can take? And I also, I think Sangeeta touched upon it. The art of saying no. As an individual, we must learn. If we are taking too much of pressure on ourselves by saying yes to people, that's also a very good technique. If you are able to say no, where to say no and where to say yes. I'm not saying you become a no man. There are some people, for everything they are going to say that I can't do it. Don't do that. But you should know that this is my 8 hours of job. I'm honestly doing this. Beyond this, if something comes up, let this be parked and I'll be able to answer you only at this time. So there's no harm in doing so. So this is, I personally feel the individual takes more onus of changing the person himself or herself. And the organization, of course, you will not be a great place to work or, engaging workplace. How can you be an engaging workplace if organization doesn't support you? It has to support you in terms of wellness, and let it be, if it is an empathetic leadership team that you are talking to, they will understand when you put forward something that this is what is not happening good, or this is happening good for the organization. Both the sides, if you paint a picture, both the sides of coins are important, then people listen. I've seen promoter driven organizations shifting to 5-day working, and people said that you can never change this promoter driven organization, so it will be 6-day working, and people were so happy, and the results, the productivity, the sales that year was phenomenal. It increased. So it's an engaged workforce which creates higher levels of productivity, right? You feel the sense of belongingness. Those things are very, very important. The pride in the organization, that is very important. If you create those things as an organization, I'm sure you are creating a productive organization. Over to you, Priya.
Nice, lovely, lovely. Thank you, BG. So
I think
learn to say no. Shruti.
Yeah, you mentioned great place to work, Biswarup. I work for GPTW number 2, reigning for years. And we have flexibility of work. There's no constant monitoring. Our leaders are extremely trusting and our employees extremely skilled for that fact. But how do we get there is the question, right? So I think burnout may not be an individual failure sometimes. It is a predictable outcome of a prolonged misalignment with the system. So there is something that is happening deep under the layers that we are talking about. It has been way prolonged. It's the volcano ready to erupt, and that's when we see it as burnout. So, and also the body often signals way before the language or the coaching insights are coming out. The body is going to tell you. And neurologically, we also know that your back starts to ache, your shoulders start to ache, you have migraines, or you just feel agitated, you're shouting at your children, something or the other. Your body tells you. Your body is your best friend, right? So burnout doesn't always need answers. So we're seeing what answer can we give to burnout. It doesn't need answers sometimes. It needs permission to pause. It needs permission to reevaluate. Where are your values? Has your belief system shifted? The ethical role for a coach, sometimes I help is, sometimes I wonder, and I'm an agile coach, so I consider my role as not to let people adapt endlessly. That may not be natural for somebody, but what I can do is partner with someone to honestly view, visualize, and choose consciously what is their choice, what works for them, right? Because that may be a completely different stance altogether. And also sometimes I wonder, my ethical stance could be, am I the right coach for this particular conversation, right? I wonder that sometimes. So coaching cannot compensate for unsustainable systems per se. However, what I'm calling out is that we can surface misalignment in the system early on. We can restore choice and agency to the individual back and prevent normalization of harm. Like we say, it's just okay. It's just 1 week that I have to do overtime. It's just 2 years that I've been doing the night shift, though it's not part of my job. So we can prevent normalization of harm. And yeah, just let people choose consciously. I think that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Shruti. And honestly, this we are running out of time. This conversation's just fabulous. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you for that. We discussed burnout. How do we really identify burnout? Is it me being able to just get out of bed with purpose and with drive? We discussed ways to spot it. So you just mentioned it, you feel it in your body. That's a big sign itself. We've gone through so many interesting tools and techniques, and the whole idea of being aware and conscious to create balance in your life. And I think all of this together will create a healthy, resilient workforce as well, if we're all much aware and much in tune with all of these thoughts. So great conversation. I'm going to have to wrap it up here. And thank you for to the audience, guys. All your comments, very helpful, very encouraging. Shruti, Sangeeta, BG, thank you so much for this. It was really an enriching conversation. Thank you,
Thank you for
everyone.
listening and having me.
Akriti, over to you. Do we close?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Thanks, audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the panelists. And as we come out of this final panel, I want to share something briefly from a personal place. Having spent a part of my life in uniform and now breathing in corporate, I've seen burnout up close, not just as a theory, not as a trend, but something that quietly builds with people when people are expected to keep on going without a pause. What stayed with me from this conversation is a simple truth that resilience isn't about being tougher, it's about being supported. It's about creating spaces where people can slow down, reflect, and be heard. And that's what coaching does so beautifully. It gives permission to pause, and in doing so, it restores strength. This panel really brought that home. So thank you. Thank you, Priya, and thank you to all the panelists. Thank you so much. And with that, it feels like the right moment to close this journey. I'd now like to invite someone who has held the heart, the intention, and the vision of this entire conference from the very beginning. Please join me in welcoming Jaya Bhateja for the vote of thanks and the formal conclusion of the conference. Over to you, Jaya.
Well, I have no words at this moment. I'm sitting with so much that came my way in last 2 months. And I'm processing. I'm really processing this. And let me share the load of processing with you. Give me a minute. I want to show you something. My heart is racing at this moment by just thinking about this. So you tell me, what is this number? Guesses. Tell me your guesses.
Minutes or the seconds we've been up together. I don't know.
Yeah, I would guess the minutes that we've been working on this.
Or WhatsApp messages or
No.
views. No.
Likes and loves that we have exchanged.
Well, with the presence of all of you, I don't care about the views anymore.
Okay.
Go
Is it
on.
a box breathing technique? 4 into 4?
No. But good one. Good one. Goes with the theme. Okay. Tell me. It's not my phone number if you're trying to check.
These many days, hours ago, we started preparing for this journey, and here we are.
नहीं शिबा इतना मैथ्स नहीं कर पाऊंगी
बता दो जया प्लीज कम ऑन
चलो अच्छा अब गेस करो
Ouch, this is getting tougher, okay?
हाँ
Or
Easy.
something. Do
Does this
something.
mean
Do
42
why
weeks?
will I waste your time with easy stuff? Tell me.
That too. That too.
Okay, any guesses? Just give me some close, wild guesses so that I can move forward.
100 conversations.
Okay, good, Anushri.
80
And-
coaches.
4 months.
2
See,
days.
you are coming closer. Okay. Now there is
4
no.
months.
Just take this time. So this preparation of conference is going on for 1.5 months or maybe lesser. From last 10 days, we are living all this. And if you multiply, whoever likes maths, multiply the hours and the minutes that you like to deal. This is what we have collectively created. So take a moment to take this in. This is a lot of energy we have created. What's your response to this?
Collective magic.
Wow.
Amazing. Amazing. There has been 80 people behind this conference, and I'm going to bring their pictures here so that we can recognize, appreciate, acknowledge, and thank them for creating this energy. I do want to tell you that this was a wild idea. One day I just thought of creating this, and Hindi mein I'll say, and Peter I'll translate for you कि पंगा ले लिया, but उसके बाद मुझे लगा क्या कर रही है, पागल है क्या, दिमाग खराब है तेरा. So Peter, after coming from Bali, when I met you, I came back. I have been thinking about this conference, and I was going back and forward and back and forward. Like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? And then I don't know what I did. And I announced and I asked for volunteers, and volunteers came by, and then one after the other, the team of 80 people. Today I'm realizing 80 people working behind this conference. So this is not a joke. And thank you very much for this. Let me just few thoughts on this journey, right? This 2-day journey of celebrating coaching in India 2025 through, the celebrating spirituality to reality conference leaves me with a deep sense of fulfillment. We have collectively exhaled a long held breath and remembered something essential about who we are as human beings, as leaders, as coaches, as family members. Over these 2 days, we have traveled together through 7 chakras, from grounding and safety, creativity, personal power, compassion, authentic voices, intuition, and finally, some quieter moments. Sleep was the conversation today. It just leaves me with more spacious connection with all of you. Something larger than ourselves, a true sense of community. And in doing so, we honored the very theme that brought us here, unleashing holistic potential. This was never meant to be just another virtual event. In December, nobody wants too much of load, right? We are all tired, exhausted. And I was so enlightened with the conversation that was just taking place on the panel. And it just felt so timely to have that conversation. It was envisioned as a self-experience conference, a sacred pause in December to refill our energies, tend to our mental health, and realign with the inner source from which resilience and wise action flows. Together, we explored energies, consciousness, and the science and art of inner transformation through keynotes on the impact and future of coaching, panels on corporate India, burnout, experiential conversation sessions. Everything has moved something in our perspective, forced us to, or maybe invited us to reflect, feel, and recommit to the path of conscious leadership. This is immensely gratifying moment, a very, very gratifying night for me. For every speaker who brought their heart, their craft, their courage, for every participant who showed up fully with curiosity and vulnerability, for every volunteer who quietly held this container so that 200 plus coaches and leaders and seekers could attend this conference from yesterday to today. What community care, what community growth really feels like is what we witnessed here. As Abhyodaya celebrates 10 years of shaping and empowering coaches and building care cultures grounded in conversations, accountability, reflection, and empathy, this conference has been a powerful reminder that coaching is not just a profession. It is a way of being, that can transform organizations, families, society, one conversation at a time. And that's really the purpose of Abhyodaya. As you step back into everyday life from tomorrow, the invitation is profound and straightforward. Do not leave this experience behind as an event on your calendar. Let one insight, one practice, one inner shift travel with you in 2026. Maybe a renewed commitment to rest, a braver conversation you have been postponing, a gentler way of speaking to your own self, or more intentional way of using leadership and coaching to raise the energy of space you touch. If each one of us carry even a small flame from this shared field into our teams, our clients, our homes, our friendships, the real conference begins then. The ripple effect is created then. So, won't take more time from you. I want to take you through a small visual journey, and I want to thank the entire Abhyodaya Global Coach Academy who's come together to create, curate this conference with a lot of other people, which I'm going to show you in a while. Thank you to all of you for trusting this space, for leading your presence to this decade celebration, for being part of this one community, one voice devoted to coaching the future. May you walk into the new year more grounded, more aligned, more alive to the truth that you are both the instrument and the channel of transformation. And may the wisdom awaken in these 2 days keep guiding your choices, your leadership, and your coaching in the months to come. Please join me in welcoming every individual who has been part of this journey. And by the way, I'm very safely saying this, that in these 2 days, we have created history. There hasn't been a conference who brings spirituality and reality together. And now I'd like to take you through the visuals of this journey. One second. We started with pre-conference as a formal execution of this conference. There were four sessions we did around the similar themes and focused on conversations that were essential. These were our speakers. Yesterday, we did the inauguration ceremony with a very special gesture of inviting 3 energies: a little child representing innocence and untamed curiosity, a teenager embodying courage, exploration, and discovery, and a wise lady holding the glow of experience, compassion, and inner knowing. It was actually a reminder that we need to go back home to the child in us. These are the community members and the team joined us for the ceremony. Such an inclusive picture. Then we started the conference with keynotes from David Goldsmith and Jonathan Passmore. Both of them are thought leaders in coaching industry and have been doing this work for more than 30 years. And it was truly a pleasure to host them and listen to their wisdom. Our very own Akriti and Shiba have holded this space like you have witnessed already, so I don't have words for it. I'm immensely grateful for both of them. I must tell all of you that I was going through a little hard time preparing this conference. Mental health was an issue. And I one day called Shiba and said, Shiba, can you please take it over? I'm not able to do it. And this is a true moment of vulnerability. And not even a second she took to say, Jaya, just switch off, don't worry. And I'm telling you this because we were talking about burnout just now. And she took over and Akriti came along and Meenakshi came along, and I don't know how, just the time I holded myself back, I saw that I was just taken care. And that was the power of, believing that you will be taken care. So thank you from bottom of my heart, Shiba, Akriti, Meenakshi, Piyush, Chanchal. You guys have just been super, super amazing. And I'm going to come to that slides as well. So we have conducted two panels, two panel discussions. One was on coaching progress and possibilities in India, and then the one that you just heard about, the burnout. Very grateful for everyone's presence and wisdom. They took out time for this conference. It's a big deal for us. These are our speakers who focus their time and energy to teach us practical tips around chakra. Some very engaging sessions, and I'm here getting a lot of feedback on my WhatsApp messages about each one of them, and it's very exhilarating. I don't know whether I'll be able to sleep today. It's so much of energy, good energy coming my way today, but I'm feeling very grateful. Thank you very much for that. These are our hosts, our community members, coaches who raised hand. I had no idea what will I do in this conference. I said, okay, let me see if some volunteers will show their hands. And we had more than them, and we could not actually allocate work to everybody, but all these hosts were holding fort, and you have met them in all their different sessions. Some of them are here today. So thank you guys. You guys have been amazing. Here is our tech team. So today, when you were attending the session, this was the backend setup. Just take a moment to embrace it. This was the tech team sitting in Bangalore from Keystone Global and Wasmos team who was managing our transitions. We have Abhishek, Aziz, Vinuta, Basha, Jatin. In the background, their photos are on the right-hand side, you see. Amazing. And I must tell you that I didn't think of tech when I started the planning, and I actually just was figuring it out till the last minute, and then this team jumped in and said, you don't know how to do events. And we said, yeah, please take it over. Here is our events and experience team, Chanchal, who's taken care of all the event, foundation. Smriti and Ganga were behind taking care of experience. Ganga was someone who was calling a lot of you. I'm sure if you recall her name, she was following up, calling, trying to make sure that you get this experience today. Thank you very much, Chanchal, Smriti, and Ganga. Here is our marketing team from Advertent Media. Meenakshi heads the team. Abhigyan, Sushma, Ashin, Achal, and Shikha are sending all those BTS messages and all the pre-session messages. They are creating it in the background while we are attending and enjoying this energy. Here is their team, Mansi, Timsi, Samiksha, Sakshi, doing their own bit, talking to people, trying to support in every possible way we have asked for. More than 200 participants have joined these conferences in different sessions. We had Manu from Drum Circle India who raised our energy through drum work. And then we had Adresh today who's mesmerized us through his performance. Beautiful. What a beautiful collection of memories this is leaving behind. We conducted 100 coaching conversations. These are snaps from there. I requested them to take a photo from their breakout room and share it. So Akriti, I don't know how you do this, but she's been telling me, don't get nervous. This will happen. This will happen. And I said, I don't know how will you do it? How will you manage 100 conversations in a breakout? And she said, leave it to me. And I did that. And my real power this year was letting go, just let go and things will happen. Here is back of the stage. This is the office where we are sitting in different cabins, conference rooms, managing this conference from our side. Here is the VentureX team. So our office is in VentureX, Gurgaon, Sector 65. This is the VentureX team who's making sure that the lights are on at this time because the office is empty now. The chargers are working and we have all the infrastructure required to do this, to create this experience. I do want to say thank you to them as well. And these are some of the comments which has come in during different sessions. We took a snapshot of that and very humbling to read each one of them. And wait, I did miss. Yeah, I want to mention Sindhu. So Sindhu is one of our very dear coach based out of Bangalore. And a couple of years back, when she visited me in Gurgaon, she gifted me a similar kind of canvas with Abhyudaya's logo that time, the golden circle. And when we changed the logo this year in April, when we completed 10 years, I intuitively reached out to her saying, "Can you please paint this for me?" And this is what she created. It reached me yesterday when the conference started. And I want to say thank you, Sindhu, for adding the artistic, creative flavor to this conference. I'm so grateful. And this is a lifelong gift I'm gonna embrace. So with so much happened with all of us, I want to invite all of you for this moment of releasing this energy through clapping, which is one of the yoga exercise as well. So I'm requesting Abhishek to put a 2 minutes timer. Please switch on your audios. Let's create this clapping energy together. And we will clap for 2 minutes.
Start.
Can we have the timer up? 1 second. Let
Start.
Sorry, another side.
Deep enough down.
keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Thank you very much. And this was what a end to this this year. Wishing all of you a very happy holidays. Wish you good energy for your new year. Rest well. And nobody should mail me from today onwards because I'll be on leave and I'll not respond to any message because I need rest now. So thank you for everything. I'll just spend, maybe leave the space for a few minutes for anybody to say anything or express anything. I think just wait for 2 minutes to see if somebody wants to share anything in the space. Yes, Anil, please go on.
Last Wednesday when I met you, Jaya, in person, and I observed firsthand behind the scenes, like your colleague came in, you handed over the phone, and all the broadcast lists were being made, and Shiva and Snigdha in the background had been interacting with Kanika and me. So, even though we got just a sliver of the glimpse, it was very visible, the effort that has gotten. And through these couple of days, uh, while all the sessions were brilliant, what I observed was like David Goldsmith, for instance, just having it as a coaching conversation, or Peter Hare, I mean, the 50 plus years of meditation he embodies, and when he speaks about root chakra, or Dr. Elena in Tango, when she speaks about the very origin which gave us goosebumps, or the panel about the future of coaching. And I think the musical that happened today evening, we just stole our heart. We loved it. I think the spaciousness weaved in with the whole thing. Really want to acknowledge the design as well as the quality of all that came. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you for being a very important part of this conference. Great. Anyone else would like to share anything? What are you feeling at this moment? What are you sitting with? Coach हूं ना, बिना question पूछे मानती नहीं हूँ. Yes, Shilpi, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Jaya. This is really my first experience of doing something like this. I've always learned from different coaches online, and I used to always wonder what is this whole experience about. And thanks to Snigdha, I met her at a common party, and Abhyudaya just showed up, and I was like, wow, this will be an interesting experience to be a part of. And I think I've come with so much of hunger, and I'm like feeling very happy that I had so many questions, and so many of each one of them was answered. And I'm feeling like a little child and even in the breakout rooms, the people we connect with were so amazing, like, as if we all were just there for each other. So I'm just feeling very happy. I'm like that little child who's found her why and the how, and wow, life is amazing. And so wonderful, and also amazing to know that you're in Gurgaon. So I'm really excited because, from an online Zoom and all of that, and online, I was like, I'm waiting for those close, warm connections to share all the craziness and fun. And of course, this energy has been amazing. For me, it's been the most amazing experience. So thank you. I'm thanking all the mysterious elements to just align me with this energy. Thank you. It's been the most fulfilling experience for me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Shilpa.
to
Thank you.
everyone. And to Ganga, the number of calls I've received from her. Finally, I told her, listen, you're a big hug. I'm in the session, don't worry.
I know, yeah.
I had so many errands running, and I had emails like pounding me, and I was like, jaldi, jaldi. I've literally, the times that my camera was off, I was eating because I was like, but amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. And we totally understand the space we are all in, right? We are running out of attention and energy, and that's why multiple calls were required,
It was
because
wonderful. It just kept us all on our toes. I think one of the best experience for me to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you have added a lot to this conference, Shilpa. I've been noticing your energy.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
there in the background watching.
Yeah.
Amazing energy. Thank you for adding that energy. And by the way, everyone, I have been told, why are you doing this virtual? This is supposed to be in person. I said, yeah, this is the teaser, because next year we are doing an in-person retreat, and we want, just the right connections to be there.
I'm going to be there.
Thank you. Thank you. Peter, my dear Peter.
Thank you for realizing and manifesting this beautiful dream. And there's a kind of observation that I've had or felt, is that in a way the conference was organized around the energy centers of the individual person. But I felt like the conference as a whole seemed to be kind of like a collective expression or embodiment of the alignment of all these centers coming into vision, into feeling, into being. And it was quite extraordinary to feel the other level of those energy centers expressed and manifest in the being of the collective. So it's an extraordinary, I don't know, unexpected expression of this remarkable endeavor. So really grateful for that, and really delighted to have been a witness to, if not all of it, quite a lot of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I have posted on LinkedIn, I don't know how many people saw that post, that I recently visited Bali, spent 2 days with Peter, and a lot of manifestation of this conference came from the conversations I had with him. There was an awakening in those moments, and we've, he really supported me channelize a lot of my energies that I wasn't looking at. So Peter, thank you. Thank you for those 2 days. I will never forget that. Abhishek.
तो मैं ये हिंदी में कहूँगा, and I will leave it to one of your very erstwhile competent team members to translate it back into English. बड़ा अच्छा हुआ कि आपने ये पंगा लिया, दिल और दिमाग आपका दुरुस्त था, आपने लिया. सबसे अचंभे की बात है कि आपको साथ पंगा लेने वाले बहुत सारे मिल गए, हम सफर. हाँ, और उन्होंने साथ दिया आपको. तो मुझे थोड़ा सा डर लग रहा है औरतों से कि आजकल इतना पंगा ले रहे हैं एक साथ. हाँ, तो जब इतना बड़ा माहौल आपने यहाँ पे खड़ा कर दिया और इतना सुंदर प्रेरित करने वाला, और तो जब ये रूबरू मिलेंगे तो फिर बहुत मजा आएगा.
वो तो हमारी बात होगी ना, कि जब रूबरू मिलेंगे तो कुछ बात होगी.
जरूर.
Thank you, Vikram.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And a small story, I and Vikram have never met in person. We have been just connected, very truly connected. And I just called him and said, Vikram, ye karoge? And he didn't take time to say yes. And that's what I'm embracing here, right? Anil, Vikram, Peter, things came together. Right? Most of the speakers that you saw in this conference were all close connections. And this had to happen through all of us, right? Great. Akriti, can you translate that for Peter, if you remember what he said?
Yeah, that's a good question, if I remember what I think.
Yes.
But Peter Vikram was just in awe of this entire collective presence, and also he's a little stunned by what women can do. Something on those lines, and Jaya can probably add and make it even more meta. But he's just awed by this, collective arrangement that we made. Jaya, please add in and, complete that.
Yeah, he's just extremely worried about what women can do, Peter. So our purpose is solved. Okay.
He's
awesome,
seeing the future.
He's seeing the future, yeah. He's witnessing it, I would say. Awesome. So everyone, thank you very much. It's already 10 o'clock. I will not hold you back. I know it was a long sitting for 2 days. I hope we made it worth it for you. As we promised, we will share resources and recordings with all of you on the course of time. Give us some time, because these are like 17, 18 hours of recordings that you are seeing, and we'll have to go edit. It'll take some time, and we also need some rest. So please be patient with us. But please stay connected. Do send messages of hi, hello, but don't send me any professional mail. I don't want to receive any professional mail for next 10 days at least. Thank you very much. And
Have lots of fun.
Thank
Have a great
you.
vacation, Jaya.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
Wishing you all a very happy holiday. Enjoy.
Happy New Year.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
to all of
Happy
you. To all
Happy
of
New
you.
Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Happy New Year.
Bye. Thank you so much.